Hello class. What we're going to discuss in this video are going to be the different shapes of bacteria. So in terms of bacteria and prokaryotes in general, they don't have as many cellular structures to distinguish themselves from one another like eukaryotic cells do. All right? So one of the things we rely on when we identify bacteria is what the shape looks like. All right? And in terms of bacterial shapes, we've got three main shapes that we can have, all right? We're going to have bacteria that are round. And if the bacteria is round, the proper terminology for that would be, it's going to be a cocci, all right? So I'm going to draw a circle here. That's our cocci. We can have bacteria that are rod-shaped, all right? So instead of being round, there may be a little more rectangular, all right? The proper name for that is going to be bacillus for the rod-shaped, all right? And then the third shape that we've got are going to be bacteria that are spiral in shape. All right, so those are known as spirillum. You may see it as spirochetes. That's fine too. All right, it kind of looks like a corkscrew. All right, and I kind of think of that as like a pig's tail. All right, these are not the more common type of bacteria, but they're really kind of neat if you look at them underneath a microscope. So if you want to Google what a spirochete or a spirillum looks like, they're really kind of different as far as their shape goes. All right? And in terms of that, one bacteria in particular that has that spiral shape that impacts us as far as human health is Helicobacter pylori, and I've abbreviated the Helicobacter with H, pylori. All right, Helicobacter is the genus name, pylori is the species name. Remember, when you're writing out bacterial genus and species, you either need to italicize that, and I don't know about you, but I have a hard time writing in italics. All right, if you don't italicize it, then you need to underline it because it is a proper name. Okay, so in terms of that H. pylori is a bacteria that is found or can be found within the stomach, and it causes ulcers. All right, so in terms of that H. pylori would be an example of a pathogenic bacteria. Pathogenic meaning it makes you sick. All right, but in terms of our bacterial shapes, these are the overall shapes that we have associated with bacteria. The next thing that we can classify bacteria off of are going to be bacterial arrangements. So we can have just a single bacteria, all right? And I drew a circle here, but you could also have a single bacillus or a single spirochete, all right? You can also have two together, which would be diplo, all right? And in terms of that, with the diplo and the naming of bacteria, you're going to take into account bacterial arrangement and bacterial shape. So what I've drawn here, or what I've drawn here, are two round bacteria, all right? So it's a cocci. So the proper name on this would be Diplococcus, all right? If we had two rod-shaped bacteria together, it'd be Diplobacillus, all right? And I've put a hyphen in there just so that you see the difference between the arrangement and the shape. You would normally write it all as one word, okay? So in terms of that, we can have singles, we can have doubles. And then we can go on and have long chains. All right. If we have a long chain, that's going to be a strepto. In this case, because we've got a long chain of circles, it would be streptococcus. If we have a chain of rods together, it'd be streptobacilli. All right. The other arrangement we can have is going to be clusters. All right. So if we have the clusters here, that arrangement is referred to as being staphylo. That's what the cluster refers to. In this case, because they're round, it would be, let me draw it without the hyphen. It's staphylococcus. All right. So in terms of that, when we're talking about bacteria and you look at different names of bacteria, all right, for example, Staphylococcus aureus, all right, Staphylococcus aureus you may have heard a little bit about because there are antibiotic-resistant versions of Staphylococcus aureus. That antibiotic-resistant version of Staphylococcus aureus is known as MRSA. That's MRSA stands for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. But that Staphylococcus aureus is going to be arranged in clusters, and they're going to be round bacteria, okay? If you've ever had strep throat, all right, that bacteria that causes strep throat is Streptococcus pyogenes, all right? So the arrangement of the bacteria are going to be linear. They're going to be in a chain. And let me put the chain up here just to remind you. But that Streptococcus pyogenes, the bacteria will orient themselves into a long chain like that, all right? If you notice, I didn't draw a Staphylobacillus. That isn't typically an arrangement we see with bacilli, all right? And if you also notice, I kind of left all of the spirochetes out. Most spirochetes are going to exist just as single bacteria, all right? So there can be some variation. And in terms of that, your textbook goes into a lot more detail because there are some other shapes beyond round, rod, and spiral, okay? You can have bacteria that are kind of comma-shaped. That's not really a great comma, but kind of comma-shaped. And those would be known as Vibrio, all right? So there are some other arrangements out there. These are the ones I'm most concerned that you're aware of, all right? Because in terms of that, most of your pathogenic bacteria, which are are going to be of concern to you as a future healthcare provider, are going to be either cocci, bacillus, or spirochetes, all right? So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions,